Let me tell you a story today. I'm going to go back to when I was 15 years old. I believe I was 15. And I was really lonely at that time. Didn't have many friends around me. I may have even been 14. It's irrelevant. It's one of those ages. I was very lonely, didn't have many friends. And I kind of just was alone. Playing video games, playing FIFA, not really doing much, wasting time, wasting my parents' money on video games, doing nothing. And I remember I was at school. This was in 9th grade and didn't really hang out with people much. And finally I found a new friend. We were really hitting it off, and I guess we were both lonely in some sense because he was new to the school and he wasn't well acclimated yet. And, I was already at the school, but kind of just didn't have a friend group, bounced around friend groups. And so we naturally connected, came together and became friends at that time. And over the course of a few months, we became great friends. We were hanging out with each other every weekend. We were, he introduced me to his friend group. So I not only gained him as a friend, but I had a lot of new people as friends. And, we were living the life. We were 15, messing around, hanging around in, not the best area. We were the kids who, I guess you could have called us like the troublemakers. We were out until, all hours of the night, 4 a.m, messing around, smoking weed, drinking, vaping, the things. At first, it was fun. I knew that those bad habits weren't good for me, but I was happy because I felt like I had my group. And slowly but surely, it turned from being fun to being something that was very dark. The group turned into a group of drug addicts, and slowly, one by one, everyone started dropping off. And I started to realize that a lot of these guys I was hanging around with, they weren't doing these things for fun. They were drinking, smoking, taking harder drugs to drown out their misery, their sorrow, their demons that they had to fight off. And I watched this in front of me multiple times. Friends just drugged out of their mind, not even knowing how they got to where we were, nearly overdosing, many of them overdosing in a lot of cases. And, it just turned into something that became very burdensome on me. And I don't want anyone to feel bad about me. I'm not trying to make that, make anyone feel bad for me. But I remember hanging around my friends at the time because I could feel their pain. They were struggling with something, clearly. That's why they were doing what they were doing. Most of it was at the home. They didn't have good relationships with their parents. Their parents didn't pay them much attention. And I remember just going to my friends' homes just to be there with them because I knew that they were alone. And you might be asking yourself, did you end up going down that path as well? Did you, get overcome by addiction and fall into drugs and all that stuff? And I'm lucky to say that I didn't. I did do the weed and the nicotine, the dumb stuff that I think a majority of teenagers engage in high school. I did get fairly addicted to both. And I didn't feel good about myself for that. But I never touched anything more than that. I'm willing to bet that I had 100+ opportunities to do drugs. Like literally, hard drugs are in front of me whether it be pills, whether it be, illegal drugs as well, prescriptions, all that stuff like cocaine, oxys, Xanax, all the drugs that you can think of that are bad. I've probably seen them and they've been in front of me and presented to me at some point. Like, hey, you wanna do this? And every time something inside me told me to say no. And I'm very lucky that I didn't succumb to peer pressure, because I remember very distinctly a friend of mine at the time saying, I'm just going to try this thing one time and see how it goes, right? And he did end up trying it one time. And then he didn't for a few months. But then he remembered how he felt, and something was going wrong in his life, right? So he decided he wanted to have that feeling that the drug gave him, which was a feeling of nothingness, to detach and forget all the stuff that was going on in his life at the time, all the demons he was facing. And slowly but surely he fell into addiction, right? And that's why I always say that the first time, you can't try a drug one time, a highly addicted drug. Most cases, it doesn't work like that. You try it once, and maybe you don't try it again for a little while, but then ultimately you're going to try it again, and then it turns into a third time, and a fourth time, and a fifth time. So all it takes is once. I recommend to you, please, I'm pleading with you, don't try it once. Please. It'll always come back to bite you. Because when you are struggling and when you want to detach, you don't have healthy habits to be able to alleviate some of that pain and suffering. You turn to drugs because that's the easier solution, right? Than to go work out or meditate, to really face what you're going through and give yourself an opportunity to clear your head by doing things that are good for you. Instead, you'd take the other path. And the reason I'm telling you this story is because these experiences influenced me so deeply. Watching people that I loved and care about around me succumb to addiction, fall down that path, it hurt me. It hurt me inside really badly. That's just my nature. I couldn't just watch my friends go down that path. I wanted to be there, and I remember multiple times grilling my friends, being like, hey, you got to cut this shit out. Like, you told me you weren't going to do this. I remember I made a commitment to a friend, like we committed to each other. I swear, one day I was at his house, we commit to each other. Hey, we're never touching that stuff. We're never going down that path. And I told him, he looked me in the eye and he said, I won't do it. And I said, you promise? And he's like, yes. But when you hang around people who are doing those things, you inevitably fall down that path. And that's what happened to my friend. And then I started looking at the entire group, and I started to realize, wow, I'm the last one here who hasn't yet fell down this path. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Right? If everyone else has fallen down this path and, they swore that they wouldn't, and, you once knew them for being happy and not in that state, then what's going to happen to you? I knew that it would be inevitable that I'd be next if I stayed in the group. So I decided, you know what? I can't stay. I've got to go. And I did just that. And I went into isolation for a long time. I was alone for months. I would even beg to say a year of complete loneliness, and this was during COVID times as well. So not only did COVID happen, but I also cut off a lot of relationships right before COVID happened. So I literally had no one except for my family. like no friends. I didn't have anyone to call because I had severed a lot of relationships. So it was just darkness. It was just darkness for a while. A lot of pain. I remember I couldn't sleep for a long time. I'd wake up in the middle of the night and my whole hand was numb, and I couldn't get it unnumb. And it wasn't just because I was sleeping on my arm. Like sometimes it would be both arms in the middle of the night. And I think that it was all this stress that I had inside of me that I was so afraid to hear, the next day that my friend was no longer here or that something bad happened to him, because I knew that he was doing stuff that could get him in that situation. And I don't know if you've experienced this, if you're in the same situation, but if you really care about your friends and you're watching them right in front of your eyes just kind of wilt away, go down that path of no return. You know how hard it is, and you know how hard it is to cut off the relationship, especially if you consider someone your best friend, right? It's hard. But I had to do it. And let me just tell you, it was the decision that changed my life forever. I don't know where I'd be today. I really don't. If I'd continued being with the same group, going down the same path, I think I'd be in a much worse situation. And as much as I am hard on myself and I never like where I am in my life, I'm always unsatisfied with where I'm at, which I think is a good trait to have if you want to be successful. But I do it so much so that I'm disgusted with myself, and it rips away some of the joy and happiness from my life. And I've also realized that, making some money isn't going to do anything for me. Like I thought when I made my first sale with my business, it would make me happy, but it doesn't. What makes me happy is being around people I love and being healthy and active and making enough money where I can have beautiful experiences. And that's what I'm going after right now. Look, I hope that if you're in a place where it's difficult, maybe you're on the other side of where I was and you are addicted to drugs, you can pull yourself out, man. I swear, I was just in a dark of a place as my friends who were addicted in my own way. I was struggling. I don't think I slept for a few months during that period where I'm telling you, where my hands would get numb in the middle of the night. It was painful. And to this day, I still feel lonely a bit, which is why with what I'm doing with my business, I want it to really help people who are in this. I think we have an epidemic of loneliness, and I'm one of the people who are a part of that. Personally, I've felt it multiple times in my life. When I was young, when I was 15 and I had no friends. When I was 18 during COVID, again with no friends. And up till recently, where I just felt like I didn't belong and I isolated myself. So I want to do that to help alleviate some of that pain and loneliness for some people, and solve my own problem that I've dealt with, and create a business that does good in this world. So I want to thank you for watching today's video. I wanted this to just come from the heart today. I really want to connect with you guys, and I know that one day I'm going to be successful, but I want people to come back and watch these videos where I'm in these hard places, and me explaining the journey to get to where I want to go. It's not easy. You're going to struggle. I've struggled a lot. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you enjoyed, check out the links in the description. I'll see you guys in the next one. I appreciate you.